You can liken a company and a brand to a person, where when a person is their best self, that's when they can help others. It's the old, you can't give from an empty cup kind of situation. And I think eye health is, it's got such an amazing reputation. Like, the name eye health had such an amazing reputation and amazing client base. And it was in the best position to then set these intentions with purpose. And, again, as if you're a business owner, like, sometimes you just got to prioritize your business and yourself, but there is also so much power in, like, setting the intention for what you intend to do in terms of doing good.
Katie Grant, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here.
That is my pleasure to be here with you on your podcast, our podcast, the podcast, Alex.
The podcast. I like that. Yeah. Well, it's been a long journey, and if you'd asked me this time last year if you and I would be having this conversation, I probably would have thought, maybe, I guess. I don't know. That sounds strange. Here we are, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So how did you get into marketing in the first place? I'm really curious about your story, how you kind of got into marketing and how you've ended up at FoundSpace.
Yeah. I studied communications at uni. So I went to Otago University in New Zealand. But to be honest, I think I just loved learning. I loved learning, and I loved partying. So I spent a lot of time partying. But when I wasn't partying, I was just really enjoying learning all the different topics and subjects that they offered in the Bachelor of Arts area. And I actually really struggled to stick to one major. I changed my major 3 times. I forgot until about 6 months ago that I have a minor in politics. Because at some point in the 3 years I was there, I was like, I better stick to one thing so I can actually come out of this with a proper degree. So I did communications, which was really fascinating. And I do feel like I use it. I use it all the time. Like, it's a study of how messages are given and received. It's all about context and how we use words and how the meaning of words change. So yeah, I think it really set me on this general kind of direction around storytelling. I feel is the kind of thing that I've always been drawn to. But yeah, so I just traveled around and stuff. And then when I was lucky enough to land a job at a top PR agency in Auckland, and then realized I wasn't really into PR, but it was really great experience. That was cool. And then I went off to film school when I was 25 because I didn't really know what to do with my life. And that was awesome. And somewhere between those two kinds of industries, so the public relations and then the film industry, I moved to London with my boyfriend, and I was like, I'm going to either work as a producer for videos or I'm going to work for a startup in marketing. And I ended up getting a job, because when you live in London, you sort of just have to get a job after a while. I think anybody that's lived and done their OE over in London will resonate with that challenge. So when you get one, you're like, oh my God. So I was lucky enough to get a job at a company called Doctify, which is a health technology company. And that was kind of the moment where I realized that health really was a big passion. So it wasn't really just marketing, it was health marketing. And yeah, from there I worked for a couple of I worked for a marketing automation company, which was awesome. I really loved automation. It was like this next step in sort of learning how to scale really meaningful conversations. So, I've always been a big talker, love a yarn. And so
happy everyone. This is going to be a long one.
I'll try and summarize stuff. But yeah, like I do love a good meaningful conversation with people. I think anybody that knows me, that I go deep pretty quickly. And so just the idea of being able to scale meaningful conversations with something like automation was just mind-blowing to me. And yeah, so pretty much that was how I got into marketing. And I think yeah, it started as a kind of, it was like this kind of weird sort of swerve
Right.
into marketing. But what happened, I think, was I realized that nobody will teach you about marketing. Marketing is a total cowboy territory. So I started realizing that no one actually really knows what they're doing, and everyone's kind of just making it up and learning as they go. And if you actually roll with it and embrace that approach, and you just, you know, if you're like me, you love learning, like you just constantly find things that you're interested in and keep teaching yourself, then you can go so far in marketing, and it's such a creative industry. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got into marketing.
No, I like that. I mean, yeah, it certainly feels like there's a lot of cowboys out there, but I resonate with that story because I believe so strongly in life. Like sometimes you just got to do stuff. You just got to do it, man. Like, and try and fail.
Yeah.
You know, and you learn through doing that. And you know, I know your story pretty well, but it sounds like from what you've just been talking about, like that's very similar sort of experience you had.
And I think that like I remember hearing somewhere it's like throwing spaghetti at a wall. when you're, and I just think that there's so much pressure to nail your career and what you love and find it really quickly so young. And I just think that and it relates to what we'll talk about with Found Space and why I'm so connected to the brand and the purpose. And it's just, I just felt a lot of pressure to fit into a lot of boxes. But actually what would happen is I would like try something and I realized it wasn't for me. And the amount of like kind of explanation and effort it took to try something new, you know, and the whole like you have to stay in a job for 2 years and stuff. It's like, yeah, maybe sure, but also like that's 2 years of your life that you might be completely miserable, and you could be spending finding something that you actually really love or you're really good at, or both, hopefully.
And the people saying those things are just talking from their experience because that's how they see the world, right? That's what I did, so that's what you need to do. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that people, I mean, generally speaking, in like a more cynical way, people are amazing, obviously, but there is a resistance to change. And I just am such a believer that you should be able to change and you should be able to grow, and you often grow and want to change faster than society and how the world is set up wants you to or allows you to. And so it's a really big passion of mine.
It's really pertinent you talk about change, you know, because like we're going to talk a lot about change in this episode, because that's exactly what iHealth Saunas is doing from a brand perspective, but also what each of us are doing within the team personally, you know, always changing and evolving. So you were kind of getting into automation, and you also started working with health companies from a marketing point of view. How did that kind of transform over time, and how did you kind of end up here once you started getting into that space?
So once we got back from London, it was definitely a bit of a weird time for me. You know, mental health is something that I've always had to work really hard at, which I think is really common. And I just began, I actually did a yoga teacher training course, which was incredible. The woman called Nikki Ralston from Auckland. If you're looking for one, check her out. She's amazing. And it really shook up my energy container because I think what happened, I was working for a company, and it was actually a really great company with great people, but I was just really unhappy. I've always wanted to work for myself, actually. I think I love that freedom that it's entrepreneurship allows. And I just started kind of, you know, once you realize what you have been doing and how you have been doing things still isn't working for you, like it's a really scary place to go and be like, what do I really want? And once you have been making all these changes, like I was sort of reaching 30 at that point, so you know, it's like 10 years of fighting to like find my way with work and Work, it was mostly work. I think how I spent my day was really important. Yeah, I think I was just really I was really tired, and I was like, am I gonna be kind of unhappy my whole life? Like, is this it? Like, am I just gonna have to fit in with what is expected of me professionally? And it just felt awful. It was just the worst feeling. And like, like my family and friends, amazing and super supportive, but they had heard it all. Like, they were sick of it. Like, I just had I was kind of just at the end of my wits. And when I did the yoga course, it really, when you go deep, and you go into yourself and you start to ask yourself some pretty confronting questions, that's hard enough. It's once you know the truth about what you want, that to me is the scariest part, is because you don't have another choice, because then that you are settling.
Right. Yeah.
And so like this is all like an internal change happening. I think it's funny because people ask how I kind of like I have turned my life into something I'm really happy with, work professionally and stuff. It's brought me to where we are today, where are talking today. And people kind of ask me like how I did that. And I just say that honestly, like, the agonizing takes like 80% of the time, but the action takes 20. Not just like do the 80-20 rule, but like the amount of we think about it and agonize about it and analyze it is so much time. And then the actual action is, it's sometimes all it takes is like one email or like one action that can totally change your life around. And so for me, what that was is I was like, look, I'm just going to start a little side hustle. So now I actually know I'm good at, and I'm good at marketing automation. I know I'm good at writing. And so I got on Upwork and found a job ad with this guy called Simon Chin. He runs a wonderful agency called Flow State. Shout out to Flow State. And he was looking for a marketing automation specialist, and I just set up a meeting with him. He'd signed a new client, and we just got along really well, and I essentially got introduced to you, Alex.
Yeah.
So
what a kismet moment that was.
Yeah, I almost feel like, so from my end, it was like I just started doing my thing with iHealth saunas. And actually, I'll finish off my part of the story, but it'd be quite cool to hear for you, like your flip side, because like that's with me. But yeah, so I started working with you 2.5 years ago now, and then obviously here we are. Relationship grew and the scope grew, and you invited me on, and it was an offer I couldn't refuse, and here I am. Crazy thing is, you and I have never met in person.
Yeah,
that still blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think it talks to the entrepreneur in yourself and myself, and that is like it's not an issue. I think maybe not, but even 2 or 3 years ago, like having a head of marketing for an Australian-wide business that doesn't actually live in Australia, that's never actually met anyone that works on the team, and is essentially in charge of the whole brand voice. That probably would have seemed a bit surreal. I mean, to myself, it would have even seemed surreal a couple of years ago, but just because of everything that's changed, and COVID really just proving that we can do so much remotely. And it's kind of brilliant in a way. Like I really actually like that part of the whole story. Like it'd be good to meet you one day.
It'd be nice
when our countries sort their shit out,
Oh man, I know. But yeah, it's so funny because I started working with you, and then I essentially quit my job with the intention of going completely freelance, just getting my own clients, because I knew I was good at that. I was like good with people. I know what I'm good at, and it was just crazy because I literally started doing that like 3 weeks after the outbreak, and we were in lockdown in New Zealand. So I've always wondered, like, because my little business like did well. I had wonderful clients, and it was a really great stint of doing that. I don't think I would have been ready to be head of marketing, and if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been. Like, it's just, you got to like trust the process. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it sucks with COVID and everything. It's terrible, but on the flip side, I think that the shake-up it's done to how people come together, businesses run, how to find a team, has really changed. And yeah, I agree. I think it's a pretty cool story, and I can't wait to meet everybody.
It'll be nice. It'll be nice.
It'll be nice.
So today we're going to talk a bit more about, we're going to talk about Found Space and the process we kind of went through to rebrand and just talk about the brand in general. But to start kind of, I guess, the origins of eye health and where that all kicked off, I actually want to, I'm sure you have some questions for me, but I want to throw it over to you. Like, when we started working together 2 years ago, what was eye health saunas then from your perspective compared to what it is now?
Yeah.
And you can be honest, I'm sitting down.
It was like, I just felt the heart immediately in it. I just think that I always look for the deeper meaning in something. So it takes so much more than just like an ugly email to put me off anything, because I look for the substance that sits below.
Our emails were pretty ugly back then.
Yeah, they were. I mean,
because I was doing them.
yeah. But like, that's what's so awesome about Alex, is like you get in there and do it. Like, you're such an accepting person, and you're not a perfectionist. And I just think that's wonderful, because just as life and personal development and stuff is and professional development, it's messy, it's all over the place. So like, I just rate that as a quality. But it also was great for me, because I had lots of scope to improve things. I just think, and it took, you would have seen my improvements over the last almost 3 years too. Like, right. So, no one's like, everyone's just, it's like your energy goes where your attention goes, your energy flows, and that's what expands in your life, right? What you get good at. But yeah, so eye health was just, it was trying its best. It was just keen to do it, keen to get there, open to changes, which I thought was awesome. And I think as well, the other kind of thing I did notice, which was, it's actually so great that's where we started, was, talking about health and wellness and the way that we approach those kinds of conversations. I think it's just such an important, like, it's so important to put thought into that. And like, so in a lot of the comms and stuff I could see with you, and what eye health was doing was just wholeheartedly trying to help people, which is amazing. But I think what we've kind of built on since then is just a more evolved approach to talking and instigating conversations about health and well-being that, like, as I've said, like, there's so much drama out there. There's so many messages that can make you feel, I'm not necessarily saying that eye health did this, but in a general way of how health marketing is done, how health is talked about can make you feel guilty, it can make you feel scared, and like all these negative emotions. And so I think, like, it's kind of hard to remember that far back, but I think that the heart was always there. And what we've really done now is kind of really thought out how we can have more effective conversations that don't instigate a negative response with people where they feel like they should be doing more, because there's already enough of that everywhere. And that's the space that we want to create. So yeah, I think that, maybe in short answer to your question, it was there was the heart and the intention was there, but we needed to build that space out for the customer to be themselves. Possibly.
Yeah.
What do you think about that answer?
Yeah, I think, that feels to me what was happening. I know, because, shout out to Bruce, our head of sales at the moment. And like, him and I, initially, like if I'm really just open about the whole business entrepreneurial journey, which I will be, because that's kind of the purpose of this episode. And that is like, Bruce and I were coming in, man, like Monday, Tuesday mornings. We'd get there at 6 sometimes, if not always 7. We'd have an espresso and it'd be like, right, what do we need to fix today? Like the business wasn't great. And then and then that kind of shifted over time to just like the sauna is just the bit, right? It's just, yeah, that's what people are coming to us for, but that's not ultimately what they're trying to get out of it. Like no one's spending $7,000 to just sweat in a room, right? There's a deeper part to that. And I always felt that. And I always kind of knew that. And Bruce and I really helped expand that and tried our best to open it up. We started using HubSpot, and we started trying to do some of this automation myself, because I could see, I was like, this is kind of going to help, but we're just juggling so many plates,
Yeah.
But for me, it was always more than the sauna.
Yeah.
It was always like there's something bigger going on. From my personal experience and from working and selling saunas to so many clients, like when you ask them that question of like, so what is it about sauna that interests you, and then you ask a couple more questions and you get a bit deeper, and all of a sudden you're having this really beautiful, open conversation with people about really like deep stuff sometimes, and when you create that space for that conversation, that's where the magic happens. And that's where I always felt fulfilled, having those conversations. If they bought a sauna, great. If they didn't, also great, But I think coming back to what you're saying, like the heart was certainly always there. Like it was always, we wanted to do more. And I knew that we were kind of bigger and had so much potential. We just couldn't really eke that potential out at that point in time.
Yeah, I mean, this is like going back to the storytelling and scaling conversations. You can sit in front of somebody. That's why podcasts are so awesome, right? Is that it's like, when you're doing an episode, like you're in somebody's ear, like you have a direct line to them, and it's just, they can hear the emotion in your voice and they can pick up so many more of these cues. It's very intimate. Whereas digital marketing, that's the challenge, is like, how do you kind of create the brand and in the mind of the customer, because that's where the brand is, right? It doesn't live on the website. It kind of does. Like, but if the brand is a person, it's its soul, it's its personality, it's the way it moves and talks and approaches things. And like that's what's so tricky. And I think that a lot of business owners, like both of my parents are entrepreneurial, they both run their own businesses. This is where I think I have a lot of empathy for anybody who runs a business. Like, you're wearing so many hats, as you say, and like, it's just, I just think it's incredible when any business owner is like sniffing something out and being like, yeah, this would be really good. And then I just feel so bummed for them when they feel like they aren't smart enough or good enough to do it, because it seems to be like it should be easy, but it's actually a really it's not even like it's like a combination of hard and soft skills. So I think, yeah, definitely, like when you and I started talking about this role, there's also a different headspace when you have a client and you are my client and I did the work and obviously doing other things, and I'm trying to connect into, a dozen different people in a week. And but when we did get to kind of it's great that you're obviously still, like, we still had moments of connection though, because that's how we got there. But when we really got to start having these conversations, it's just like it all just kind of opened up, and I was like, I know all this stuff, I just haven't really just absorbed it over the last 2 years. I haven't really thought about it. Of course, it's not just the sauna, like it's the whole experience, and like it's the space, and it's the space that just like people go to on a yoga mat to like come home and find themselves. Like I was like, oh, that's just, yeah, totally get it. So yeah, I think that for sure that yeah, it's just like invest, like doing marketing and comms and brand building and stuff is a whole thing. Yeah. So it's cool, but I think it's great timing when you were ready to bring on someone like a marketing team to charge forward with that. And yeah, I mean, do you feel like after the first few months of us pranking. We're seeing it come together.
Oh, I mean, you know that. I mean,
Yeah.
we launch our new brand, and well, I think it's launched by the time this podcast comes out, right? And
Yeah.
like that wouldn't have happened had we not had the team,
Mm.
everyone involved, including yourself. Like it just wouldn't exist, you know. So let's talk to a little bit more about like, you know, over the last kind of couple months, or really it's been quite a while, a lot longer than that in planning, but the kind of need from your perspective for the brand to evolve, you know, out of eye health saunas and into found space. Because a lot of people say to me, like, Alex, like things are going pretty good, man. Like,
Yeah.
you sure you want to do that? You know, I've certainly asked myself those questions a few times, you know. So I'm curious, like your thoughts on that, and like how you feel you know, why we created the new brand in the first place, and how you see it allowing us to do what we're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously, like, kudos to you. You were the one who felt that was the right thing to do. You know, when I came on board, it was about bringing it to life for you. Everybody contributes to a brand. But yeah, I guess obviously beyond that, like, you know, modern audiences are, I mean, customers have never been smarter, never been more sophisticated, especially with health. You know, there's just so much information out there, and that when you think about, like, not to go back too far, like the technological revolution and everything, technological determinism, throw back to my uni days. But, you know, the internet and social media has just enabled everybody to find answers for themselves. You know, you see the good and the bad in that, especially today. It's a confusing time to find useful, knowledgeable information, and everyone's trying their best, really. So yeah, but I mean, in a broad sense, people are sophisticated. Millennials are the dominant market at the moment in terms of consumers, millennials and Gen X. I think, oh God, I'm actually not an expert generational like stats on who's buying what. I just want to sound smart just then. Anyway, you know what I mean. People know how to find answers, and people have a lot of information out there. And yeah, the brands needed to evolve because of customers being smarter and expecting higher standards around, you know, purpose, which we're going to talk about a bit more about purpose-led brands, purpose and meaning, and they want to feel connected, and they want to feel the people in the heart behind the brand and behind the company, and they want to spend their moments engaging with brands that contribute to their lives and make them feel good, and not keeping up aesthetically and tonally and you know, with all the what purpose you're going after. Like, you just get left behind commercially. And yeah, you date because you got to stay relevant. But I think
I was going to say what I love about the approach that we've taken is it's about creating a space for people to actually make the decision themselves. You know, I often hear feedback like, oh, Alex, like I spoke with, you know, James or Helen or Sarah or Bruce or, you know, any of our sales team when they were inquiring about sauna, and they say, man, like they were such a good salesperson. Like they weren't pushy. They just gave me the information. We had a nice conversation, you know, and that right there is the essence of and what you've helped us actually expand more out on, like in our storytelling and how we convey the information that we want to convey. It's not like, and I was very guilty of this in the past, hey, infrared saunas are great, reduce pain, lose weight, sleep better, come buy one, you know, because you have these problems and I'm telling you you've got those problems and I have the solution to your problem. And in what you were saying about the market just continually evolving, like people are just over that. Like no one wants to be told like, oh yeah, I'm in debt. Cool. I better go and work with some agency that's going to help me get out. Like that's just it's a shit experience, frankly.
Mm.
And I think people are just kind of over that. And there's a wanting for just like a more freeing conversation. I don't know how you describe it, freeing, more open, whatever it is, but just a conversation that isn't, you know, sales based and push experience, you know. And I think that's something we're doing quite well. And what Found Space is going to allow us to do, one of the many things, is to just have that conversation on that plane from that space more freely, to be able to say, hey, like, here's some information, you know, you're empowered to do with it what you want to do. We're here when you need us, you know, and we'll go with you wherever you need us to go. So that to me is like touching on that evolving customer base. I think that's really important. I think there's a want for that now. And we always kind of felt that too, you know, like back in the day, if you will, like we tried to create that space and we did. Now we're just doing it better, I believe, as a brand than ever before, to just let people feel heard and have an honest conversation. And if you want one of our products by the end of it, that's great. If you don't, that's cool too, you know. It's just about being there and creating that space. No pun intended, obviously, being called Found Space. That's what it's about, and that's what I think we're doing quite well at the moment.
Yeah. So many thoughts right through my mind. We're saying all that stuff. I was like, I mean, like, so you and I both read, well, I'm just about to finish it, but both read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
And it was just like, he talks about the insanity of being a human and the ego and the, you know, your inner essence and stuff. And it's like, maybe we won't talk about it too long, because it's like a whole podcast on its own.
Totally. Yeah. We need to get him on the podcast.
Oh my God, yes. Eckhart Tolle, if you hear this, please come on the podcast. Yeah, I mean, he talks about an awakening that is happening, which I think maybe every generation thinks there's an awakening happening. But like, you know, when you think about it, like, so, you know, the planet, like my story around just not wanting to fit and just not wanting to settle, I think that is an energy that is completely all over the place. and I think maybe that it's that fear that, you know, that I touched on when I was like, the scariest part is creating the change in your life that you want to see, how to have those conversations with your loved ones and how to quit your job or how to do whatever you need to do to like make your reality what you want internally. And it's like that journey from creating an internal world that feels good and it feels authentic and you're experiencing life in a way that you want to, because that's what you want. That's what life's all about, right? It's an experience. It's not a thing you own. And then actually having your external circumstances facilitate the activities that feed your inner world, and your inner world feeds your outer world, and getting that synergy right is so hard. And it's like, we are like privileged and it's hard. You know, like it just blows my mind, like how the challenges in the world for everybody. And I just, you know, like we'll talk a little bit about like the self-actualization piece. And if anything, it's the ultimate goal is to self-actualize, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and essentially realize your own potential and live that potential in a way that you want to, is kind of what everybody feels like people are doing it. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, and they sort of are smelling that it's there. And I feel like I keep saying sniffing and smelling. You know, they sense it's there and they want that. They actually want a better life. They want better health. They want all that stuff, but they just keep getting distracted by crap. And yeah, like for us, the biggest challenge is to be a health brand that creates a space so that people can find their own way. Like, people will make mistakes. They'll whatever, like, it's just, there's enough noise out there. There's enough drama. There's enough guilt. There's enough fear. Like, let's be a place where people can come and just try something foundational, get back to the basics, get back to ourselves. it's just refreshing just talking about it, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. It's calming when you kind of tune into it, you know?
Yeah, it's like we did the intention setting. It's that coming, we're talking about what found space is right now, isn't it? It's that coming to that space inside yourself that expands. Yeah, I actually forgot what the initial question was here.
Oh, I've forgotten as well. But no, it is. It's
we're talking about consumers. That's why. That's why we're rebranding.
Yeah.
To solve everybody's life.
Well, yeah, and you know, like I said, it really, we have so much more to give, and as a brand, we're really just starting, you know, and I'm really looking forward to the kind of future journey without giving everything away. But Found Space has given us a space as a company to be able to grow, you know, just like our consumers are growing, we're growing as well, you know, and we're always looking to be better. You know, one of our internal mottos at iHealth or Found Space is chasing excellence, you know, and we're always working to provide such a good experience for our customers, complete remarkable experience. We're always looking at ways to improve our saunas and to create other products as well, and help our clients with education and record great podcasts. You know, we're always looking at ways to do things better. And you know, I realized at the start of this year, like, shit, I think we need to change our brand name for what we have in store. That's not going to serve us anymore. You know, it's kind of like when you tell your parents, like, I'm leaving uni or something, you know, like, I'm not going to finish my degree. It's like, it's a big moment, you know, and we've been going through that as a company, you know, realizing like we've kind of outgrown our shoes a bit, and it's time for us to evolve and move into Found Space. So let's talk about Found Space. We've talked a little bit about kind of what it means, you know, that space within inside each of us, and searching for that connection with ourselves and therefore connection with others. So one thing I wanted to talk about with that is like a profit-driven business compared with a purpose-driven business. And it's also in alignment with what we're talking about. Like, when you and I started working together, there was that heart was there, right? And that purpose was always there to help people with their health, you know, however we wrote it at the time, I can't remember, but it's always like, we want to help people with their health. That's what we want to do. That's why, you know, we started a podcast. That's why we wrote the blogs that we're writing at the time, like, because that's what really fulfilled us. You know, if we just help some people sleep a little bit better because they downloaded our sleep guide or whatever, and if that was all they got from us, that was like, we were fulfilled personally, whoever was dealing with that person, but also from a company level, like, that's what we're about. And again, I think we kind of, you know, had a sense of some of these bigger themes. But in my business journey since then, I really realized, like, there is a clear distinction between businesses which are profit-led and businesses which are purpose-led. And you can see it, and I think you can feel it when you interact with a brand or a company, or maybe it's just a person or two. When they're purpose-led, it's like there's something bigger and greater guiding them, you know, and guiding them when they create their products or create their customer experience or whatever. And compared with a typical profit-driven business, which we've all had those experiences as well, where the customer experience is pretty poor. You know, maybe you don't get the follow-up you need for your product if it has an issue or something like that. Or, you know, when they try and sell you something, they're just giving you a discount to try and get you over the line. Like, all these like really old school ways of doing business. And with creating Found Space, like, we had an opportunity to really double down on what we're already doing and say, you know, okay, well, if our purpose is to create a healthier world, how can we continue to do that? You know, we started donating to Green Australia earlier this year to offset our carbon footprint. I don't know if I've used the right words there. I might get taken down or something, but something along those lines.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And
we support Greening Australia.
Yeah. This is why you're in marketing, Katie, and I'm not. But yeah, you know, and that was just a small piece from what we can do from our perspective, you know, to do our bit You know, we recycle all of the cardboard from our saunas and things, and take all the rubbish away from our clients. Recycle the foam, recycle the cardboard. You know, we're just doing little bits, and we can definitely do more. And we're not perfect, but for us, we want to create a healthier world. We want to give people great experiences, so they start to use their sauna, or they engage with our health education in a way that does actually help them in whatever way they need help, or they want to improve at the time. So their inner world becomes a healthier place. Maybe that spreads to others. You know, that's what we're here to do. And yeah, profit has to exist for us to exist as a company, but it's not like the main driver in our decisions. And I think there's a select few businesses around the world that are really doing that, and you can feel that. And for me, it was important to be able to grow and expand upon that, which Found Space is kind of helping us to do, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, you know, again, you can liken a company and a brand to a person, where when a person is their best self, that's when they can help others. You know, it's the old, you can't give from an empty cup kind of situation. And I think eye health is, it's got such an amazing reputation. Like the name Eye Health had such an amazing reputation and amazing client base. And it was in the best position to then set these intentions with purpose. And, you know, again, as if you're a business owner, like sometimes you just got to prioritize your business and yourself, but there is also so much power in like setting the intention for what you intend to do in terms of doing good, or something that gives even more meaning than just profit. And also, you know, from a comms point of view, having worked in an environment that, in a company that was also had taken investment from people. So as soon as you take investment from external shareholders, investors, you're kind of a profit-driven company. Like, I mean, there's probably companies out there that are purpose-driven but also have investment in some way, shape, or form. And I would love to hear about that, because that sounds interesting as. But what I do know is that when, for example, you're in marketing and you're getting sort of just ask for the numbers. It's all about the conversion rate. It's all about the number. It's not about you can't go to an investor and be like, oh, wow, we've just put like, you know, 48 hours of thinking into this like one concept, and we love this one concept, and like it's going to be amazing, and like we're going to see like 5 posts, and because obviously that's that holistic conversation building stuff, and that I just don't think that part of the conversation is quite landing with the investor kind of and scaling a company model yet. Maybe it is. Again, love to hear it. Looking forward to the MPI, how I built this episode on all that. What's one of them? But yeah, like that trickles down. The profit-driven approach trickles down to the deliverables and the quality of work you're able to do. And when, you know, we're a purpose-driven brand, it's always been in the DNA of Eye Health, and now Found Space is going all in with it. It gives you so much space and freedom, and like to just be creative and really find the true gems of content and marketing stuff and messaging, and really connect with people. That, and like as we know, purpose-driven brands do better now, because as you said, people feel that. It means you get a better company culture. People in your company feel more fulfilled. Might feel scary, but it seems pretty cool to me.
Better customer experience. All of
Better experiences. Yeah. It's but it also it's pretty counterintuitive maybe to begin with that decision. Yeah. Yeah,
at times. But again, like perhaps compared to most business owners, I'm a bit of a younger generation, and I just kind of see it differently. So for me, it was kind of like, well, it has to be like that, you know, and anything that was profit driven or just like old school sales model kind of thing just kind of made me feel a bit icky. Like it's just like, oh, that's not very nice. I don't know. It was just never how I kind of wanted to go about doing things. And that's why we were kind of doing this already. And then when I learned about like, you know, the terminology of like, oh yeah, we are actually purpose driven. Cool. Yeah. Let's do more of that because it feels right, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes we suffer for it, but most of the time it's a beautiful thing, you know, and we have an amazing culture because of it, and we have an amazing customer base because of it. And we're going to keep doing things the way that we're doing, you know, even as Found Space.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome.
So if someone asked you like what Found Space does, Katie, what would you say we do?
Well, Alex. So Found Space is a health technology company that helps people recreate their homes to better serve their health, well-being, and happiness. Oh, we had fun coming out with that one, didn't we? Yeah, you know, it was really fascinating when we started to, obviously there's that internal space that we talked about, but to expand that a little, let's talk about the home space. What was quite surprising to me was where we got to with the home, and realizing that our company and our product was just as much almost like a I mean, not to say interior design, but it's a home item. It's an item that the sauna, for example, is a home item, and the products that we provide and will provide, home items, that influence your behavior. And I've never really been one to think that much about interior design or like how the homes are structured. My partner's actually an amazing builder, so he is quite wired into that sort of stuff. So it was really interesting because I started to pay more attention to stuff he was saying. But it was really cool. Like, yeah, and so that, you know, the home is the home space. It's the place where we spend so much time, and we live out many of our lives, and we raise families, and we laugh, we cry, we eat, we sleep, we do all the things in the home. And obviously lately a lot more time in the home. So yeah, that shift, I mean, I could go into the whole like observation. Like I kind of noticed maybe there was a trend, and pre-pandemic people were kind of talking maybe more about compact living and tiny homes and that sort of thing. Don't know, housing crisis in New Zealand is pretty prominent here. I know it's like in Australia, but yeah, obviously since the lockdown started, so many people started thinking, oh, like I spend a lot of time at home, how can I make it better if I'm going to be here all the time? And I think the shift is like, have to make it better. We want people to like want to make it better. And it's like kind of parallel with that whole concept of like health is not a luxury, like taking care of yourself. I mean, obviously it's a luxury to be able to take care of yourself, in a sort of, you know, we live in the world and what your circumstances. Yeah. But as a priority, it's a top priority. It's not really a luxury anymore. And I think a sauna obviously kind of dances. It's like, depends on how you look at it. Is it a necessity or is it a luxury product? Kind of depends on your priorities.
Yeah. What I love seeing though is whether it's a sauna or other items that you do put into your home that are for your health is it's you really like putting a priority on your health. And our health is so influenced by our home spaces, you know, and perhaps we weren't as aware of that fact as we are now, since we've all been at home so much. But where we spend, you know, I talk about this a lot, like our health is an expression of every single choice and decision we've made in our life up until that point, right? The people we spend our time with, what we think, the food we put in, the water, the environment, all that stuff has an impact. And we're spending a lot of time in our homes now, and our homes shape our quality of life and our quality of health, you know, that physical environment and everything that's within it. And then when you get a sauna and you put a sauna in there, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've got this super powerful health tool product in my room now. And it seems to shift people's thinking a little bit. It seems to start like a transition. It seems to be like a catalyst for other change, you know, and maybe they put more plants in their home space, or some lucky people, maybe they put an ice bath outside or something like that, or whatever.
Or bring in like a fitness practice or a yoga practice into your daily life, even though it's just a mat, it's still a space you're carving out for something new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's some inner space in your mind to do 20 minutes of meditation when you wake up every morning, whatever that may be. And so to kind of play in that space and be working and really focusing on that home space is super exciting for me.
Yeah.
I think it's such a critical place, and a
Yeah.
place where you can make a few tweaks here and there, and all of a sudden you're living a very different life and a much more conscious, aware, better feeling in your body kind of experience,
Definitely. And I think that identifying found spaces, the area we are trying to influence, it wouldn't be honest for us to say we're not trying to influence an area, because that's why what businesses is the home. We talked a lot about, you could go, right, I mean, how far is macro for solving problems, right? And so I think that by identifying the area that we can help people make a difference, and zoning in on the home space that people live in is really, it's like niche, but it is going to help us get more cut through. And I think that, again, like when people have a great home setup, you sleep better, you eat better, you drink better, you do all the foundational things that make you feel better and live longer and healthy lives. And then you go out into the world and you help others. And that's where, like,
that's where the magic happens.
That's where it spreads. It spreads.
I love it. So what more do you want to talk about the brand specifically in terms of kind of what we created, and any of those specifics you want to unpack, how we kind of got there? Because it was fun.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, we could just touch on some of our kind of key stuff.
Yeah.
So obviously our name, I hope we've explained what Found Space is. We want you to feel Found Space, so we'd love to hear what you think Found Space is. Our tagline is welcome home.
I mean, for me, it's welcome home on so many levels, because I mean, we just spoke about the home space, great. But it's also when you, again, sauna or not, but let's talk about sauna. When you have that sauna, you build a bit of a practice out of it. All of a sudden, you've got half an hour each day to yourself, where you might just sit in silence and just notice your breath. Maybe it's the only opportunity you have that day to do that. And through doing this, you reconnecting with yourself, oh, there I am behind all the noise or the kids or the news or your work or whatever all that stuff is. You have half an hour to yourself. And when you find that inner self, again, we need Eckhart Tolle on the podcast, but when you reconnect with that, I mean, it's like you've kind of found your own inner home, and that's super powerful. So that's for me, like, those are the kind of levels that I love about welcome home.
And it's also a welcome to our family, like as a person that is orbiting our brand. Like, we want you to feel like you're home when you're engaging with us.
I mean,
cool.
it's one of our values too, like we really try and treat our customers, or we do, like their family. That the business started as a family business. Shout out to my mum and my dad. Love you guys. Started a long time ago as a family business, and now in our business across Australia, we have a father and son. My mum still works in the business, so mother and son. We've got another mother and son.
Husband and wife.
Well, I've got a husband and wife. Like, we're so interconnected, and that it's really important for us to have our customers feel like that too, and that's certainly reflected in the feedback that we get or the reviews that we get, is that our customers feel that and sense that, because again, we're talking about health. It's something honest, and to feel that kind of connectedness and that family aspect to the experience, for me, is really important. So I like what you said there, like, it's welcome home, like, to our family and into our home,
And that's how I feel working with you guys. And again, never met you in person. Just goes to show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a lovely concept, and it's definitely so good. Love this stuff. I also thought we could just maybe cover off our logo a little bit.
Let's go.
So our logo, which is the it's like a triangle with this half circle in it, you'll see it all over the website. So what that is a iteration of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you don't know what that is, then just give it a quick Google. As we've kind of mentioned, what we're trying to help people do is get to that self-actualization level.
The top level of the hierarchy of needs.
The top level, we want to get you on top. Yeah, and by having your foundational needs met, which isn't something we can provide all of, obviously, but we are there to kind of, apart from the foundations that we can help provide you, we just want you to know that we've got your back and you can. Just as like, even when you are in those moments and you're like, I want to change, or like, I see the potential, I just don't know how, or like just those moments of struggle, that tension is where we want to really help you, and we've like got your back. And yeah, so that's what our logo stands for, is that journey upwards and onwards towards something better.
Yeah, and like I think there's a piece in all of us that's always striving for something better, or we may be super happy and content with our lives, and still having that kind of want to just experience more, or just I don't know how
set the boundaries, setting boundaries that you need. I just think it's one of the biggest challenges, is just how to set boundaries. I know, being a woman myself, don't know what it's like to be a man, or any other variation of on the gender spectrum, is you're kind of, it's really hard to set boundaries about what you need and actually truly say it and live those things for a multitude of reasons. But once you do, the more you do it, the less scary it gets. And sometimes all you need is just like one person in your corner being like, you can do it.
And we are that person.
We are that person.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. Yeah, spot on. So this has been really fun, because it's been a really rewarding journey to kind of create a brand and go through this process. And I reflect on it, and I think if someone maybe a few years ago had said, oh, like, how do you create a new brand, in a business that's quite successful and, is certainly not a small business anymore, I'd be like, oh, well, like you'd have to structure all your meetings, and, you'd get a marketing person, and you just like, it'd be so like process based. However, a lot of the process that we went through was just like, not that. We knew where we wanted to get, but you can probably talk a little bit more to like how we kind of went about it, because it wasn't very rigid from my perspective.
Yeah, I think we just did a lot of talking and thinking, much more than what might feel needed for some people. It's just been, for me, it's been such a luxury to have the space to do that. I'm a head in the clouds gal. I am all about the ideas. I'm all about the daydreaming, and but being able to do that, and also obviously being able to make things happen and put things down on paper, it's been such a luxury. And I just think that it's totally collaborative. I've mentioned to you how working with Found Space has actually been pretty healing for me, and that I kind of, when I left to go freelancing, I didn't actually really feel like I could work in a room, because I felt like I was just not a very good team member. I just didn't feel like I thrived in a company setup. But I think that I can't speak, like, I just kind of came in and did my thing. You like held that space for me, and we collaborated. And I think that maybe what it is finding that true collaboration between people that enables you to create the things that you need in order to communicate it like we want to, and scale it. I do kind of also feel that our brand is quite unique in that we have to embody the brand in order to build the brand.
Mm.
So when you're trying to get people to, when you're trying to be like, you can do it, like be that support and be that guide, and in that way, that's taking the ego out of the situation and creating that space for somebody, you kind of have to live that. So, I mean, it's amazing because like I know I get to live that life. And that is just so fulfilling, and I feel so grateful. And it means I do better work. So I mean, maybe that's why it happened, is because you, as the leader of the company, have always done it, has created space for people to live the brand. Because it felt like by the time we got to like putting things down on paper, 1 hour of chatting we'd end up nailing something pretty quickly that would just be like, yeah, that's it. Like by the time we actually got to doing it, it's that thinking, 80-20 thing. But on a good way.
About a million Zoom calls.
Yeah. I think totally. I think it's just collaboration. Like really bringing a team in and putting your ego at the side, like aside, to just be open to the ideas that can come forward. What do you think about the process?
Yeah, I mean, very, very much so. I'm certainly guilty of when new team come on board, like throwing people in the deep end, but it's important. I want people to feel that they do have the space to be themselves, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like for all of our team, I want them to be themselves, because that's the most beautiful thing, I think, when someone is just themselves, and it allows people to do their best work. I always say, like, we know what we have to do in each of our jobs. Like if you do that between midnight and 4 a.m, you're probably going to have some health issues, but like go for it. If that's how you do you, I really want people to do their thing. And certainly I felt like when you started with us, it was a very similar thing, like come and do you, and I think we did. And it just kind of worked out the way that it did. And what you're saying about embodiment, I think is also really important too. And I would actually go the next step and say, for every brand that wants to be a serious and like a good brand, like you need to embody it, and the team need to embody it, and believe in it. I always say that, like, the most powerful thing that we ever did in business was getting people on the team who believed in what we're doing. Because if they have that belief and I share that belief with them, we're going to create amazing things. And that's what we've done. That's what we're doing, because we all believe so strongly in what we're doing, and each of us embody it in our own way. Some of us more than others, but all in our own little way. We get it. And when there's that buy-in, like, you just create amazing stuff. And so I think regardless of what brand it is, whether you're doing solar or sauna or business coaching, like, you kind of got to live it and breathe it. And that's, I think, when a lot of cool stuff happens in business.
Yeah. And, as well, like, from a communications point of view, there's a sort of the sense of, like, when you sort of trained in the area in general, and I don't know, I wouldn't really be able to pinpoint it down to like one particular thing why, but you feel this, like, there's like internal comms and external comms, I guess. You hear about, like, we need an internal communications person, and it's like that's all the information that you circulate within the internal team. And then there's external comms, which is like, this is the way that the brand talks to everybody else outside of the organization. And I kind of challenge, like, obviously there's things you want to keep private in the internal company, but, like, does there need to be such a strong barrier between what those communications are?
Totally agree.
Hey, like,
totally agree.
because we're like, us telling you what our internal values are. So our internal values, like, I'm trying to remember them all. Like, connected family, remarkable leadership,
focused excellence,
aligned accountability,
aligned purpose,
and then accountability.
Yeah.
And so, like, these are all like 5 these are values that we would also talk to our customers about, and we kind of have mentioned a few times. And like, we want them to, and I think that there's something a little bit, maybe that's also part of the building a brand with purpose, is breaking down that barrier of a little, as much as feels right for you, around bringing the company really into the fold, bringing your customer, really into the fold.
Totally.
And how you use it talking about it.
Yeah, it's like, to me, that comes back to honesty, like why would we need to hide something internally, right? Because take our value system, for example, because those values are how we work internally, which has to be how everyone else experiences us, like, to me, that's like an honesty thing. Like, sure, we're not going to talk about people's contracts or anything, because that's just, you just wouldn't do that. But when we're talking about communications and that sort of the way that we do things at Found Space internally is the same as externally. Everyone's part of the family. Like, and what that really is to me is, it's community, right? Because our internal community, our internal team, is part of the external community, which is our clients and people that engage with our content or whatever. And actually, we're all one. And we're all part of the same community, and that's what it is. There's no there's no different set of rules or expectations in terms of how we communicate or how we do things. It's the same. It's reflected, internal, external. Gosh, you could go so deep with it, but it's a very similar kind of thing, and again, I think that's an important piece. Like, we can't be, it would be ingenuous to be saying, like, infrared sauna is really powerful, and then no one on the team uses sauna. It's like, well, what are we doing here? Well, actually, it turns out that everyone on the team uses sauna, and they love sauna. It's part of their life, and they get into our, they listen to this podcasts and learn, like we recommend our clients to do, and like, they're engaged. We're all equally as engaged with what we're doing, partly because it's pretty cool, and it's just, it's empowering and it's exciting, and you feel that energy. You want to be part of it,
Yeah, totally. And also, again, speaking to all the business owners out there, or anyone working, and it's like the relationships that I'd almost say like it's community, but it's curated community, but it's not curated on any sort of superficial traits. It's about attitude. It's any like we talk like who is Found Space for? It's for anybody who wants to change and show up and do the work. Like, that's who it's for. It's anybody that wants that. And we will be doing so much work and presenting in ways for people to engage with us and our product, and so that they can be a part of that. They don't necessarily have to buy a sauna. So we're working on it, but and I think like for business owners, it's like how do you select your employees, or even if you like, I was like, how do you select your clients, like the people that you partner with? Like, if you get clear on what your values are, the people that you partner with, there's nothing wrong with being like, these are our values, and that can be enough to choose to not go ahead with another person in terms of maybe not employees or anything. I'm not telling you like fire all your employees, but let's say you like are looking for an agency or a contractor or whatever like that client. Like, it's totally enough of a reason to say this. To be honest, if they're a great person, I'm just not seeing this particular value, and that's a really important part of it for me and for us. And maybe give them the option, obviously, like maybe give them some feedback, so give them a chance to like come forward. But everyone deserves a chance or two. But there's also, that's the boundary setting. There's nothing wrong with knowing who you are and what you need, or who we are and what we need, what we're doing, and just sort of kindly curating that crew.
Oh, absolutely. Even though really crystallizing our values has been a somewhat recent thing for us, it's been a really rewarding thing for us to do as a business, because they were all already there, and we actually all worked to them so well.
Yeah.
and to go through that process of pulling them out and being like, oh wow, like yeah, family is a super important piece to what we do. Or
Yeah.
or
Remarkable leaderships. I love that one.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Right.
think it's
Like,
such a good one.
you know, everyone is an inherent leader in some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form, you know, and creating a space for us to express that is super exciting. So going through that process is really cool. And now, like you were saying, it gives us that ability to know when there isn't an aligned fit, you know.
Yeah.
And we even talk about that in our process when we're working with clients to see if, you know, working with us and engaging with our sauna and our education
For
and all this
sure.
is right for them. And sometimes there isn't an aligned fit, and that's totally cool, you know. And it's better for that potential client and for us to not work together, and that's great. And that's actually a really nice thing, because then we know who we are, you know. And if I go full circle back to, you know, what does Found Space create? It creates that space for people to reconnect with who they are, you know. And that's a really empowering moment in life when you actually you really are in tune with that, and you know when things aren't quite right or they don't resonate, and you can walk away from a good space, not from like a screw you space, but just it's not right for me, because I know who I am, and I know, you know, what my values are and what I stand for. And that's a really powerful place to be in life for a company, but also for a person, you know.
Yeah, or a group of people who make up a company.
Yes.
And I just think that, you know, that when you're cultivating that, I mean, we're kind of talking about company culture. It's like cultivating a culture seems to be incredibly difficult. Like, you know, there's so many resources out there on how companies can curate a company culture. And I think it's just, I don't know if there's one answer though, but I do believe that trust is the number one thing. You know, people's confidence and the trust that they have in you to protect their confidence and what they're doing is just so important. I know I've had, like, I'm a pretty sensitive person, I will admit it, for sure. You know, for whatever reasons and whatever situations, my confidence has definitely been crushed in situations, and it's just debilitating. And it's just like my number one value with in the company is that there is such a kindness to how we talk with each other, and it helps you to, when you're just like being treated like that, you want to treat people like that. And that fragile, it's so fragile, but I think that by really doubling down and on that intention, and that's what those values give such a great framework for, is like the maintenance of that trust, that everybody knows that everybody is there doing their best, everybody is showing up, they care, they might be stressed, but it's because they care, not because they're like angry with you. And like, hopefully if they are, they're figuring out why they're angry.
And then giving some feedback.
And giving feedback. What have I learned from this? Yeah. So yeah, I just think that the trust, I've never understood how people, I don't know, like separate. I don't know if it's a thing. I feel like maybe it's not, but separating work from life, like how can you do that? Like maybe you can for bits, but magic happens when humans come together and trust each other. I think that's when the best stuff happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, talking about like, how do you kind of foster that within a culture? And initially, like in the small stages, like what I've learned is it's like a bit of a ratio thing. Actually, there becomes a point, like if for small business owners, like up until pretty much like 17 employees, actually the leader of the company can really influence the culture to a degree, right? Because they can have people believing in them and doing things the same way, and that's cool. But over 17, you like the culture is completely created by the team. So you can, you know, have hope that you've kind of got the rails in place by then and the things in place to allow the team to then build the culture from itself. And that's an identity shift as a business owner. And I know that because I've gone through it, to realize like I actually no longer can influence as much as I used to be able to. And like to let go of that is fucking scary, you know, but also super, super exciting, you know, because you now, like, our whole team is creating its own thing. And I know that at Found Space, like where we're going to be in a year's time. I mean, hell, where we're going to be in a month's time, right, from today is going to be so much like bigger, more exciting, more fun, more engaging than anything I could have ever thought of. So thank God I'm getting out of the way. You know what I mean? But
Well,
in terms of culture, like there are those
yeah.
kind of tipping points. So I think like early on, you know, the leader does have an influence to a degree, but that diminishes over time. And then it's a matter of making sure that the team has what they need to do their thing, and then letting it flourish, letting it do its thing, you know. It's culture I find fascinating, and I think is one of the like sole, if not the most important piece to help creating something amazing in business. Because if you haven't got that, you can't create anything. There's just too many fucking barriers, you know, there's too much stuff gets in the way, too many roadblocks. So I get pretty passionate about that one.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, this is actually turn the tables on you, Alex.
Right.
We haven't actually talked about your journey, because I've definitely sensed a evolvement in you in the almost 3 years that we've been having video calls weekly, at least.
Do you exist, Katie? I'm not sure.
I definitely do. Yeah, like, so why don't you talk us through your journey? Like, how did you get to today?
If you indulge the ego, everyone's got to sit
Please.
down. This is going to go for a while, but no, it's a massive journey. And you know, I've spoken a lot about like the story of the business, and so I won't kind of bore everyone with that, but certainly it's a constant like identity shift. That's the term I use. One of my mentors, Stefan Kazakis, the first time he said that to me, is like, "Oh, mate, like you're going through an identity shift. Like, of course you're going to be feeling that." It's like, yeah, you know, because as like when we started, business sucked. You know, we had a lot of challenges, problems. I was very young, didn't know much, and was very ignorant to the job that was at hand. And over time, we fixed those things, and we got to the point where at the start of this year, I really kind of was the first time ever as a business that I really could sit and be like, oh, that like $750,000 worth of debt that we're in, we're no longer in, right? Or we're not chasing like every single sale, hoping, praying that someone chooses us over our competitors because we really care and we know we're coming from the right place, but you know, the business just wasn't set up right. And at the start of this year, I no longer had those worries anymore, you know, with the shift in COVID and our shift in business model. The start of 2020 really helped, and all of a sudden we're in a different place. And so that was kind of the start of like, okay, so what's next, you know? And that was really when I didn't know it was going to be called Found Space at the time, but you know, I started to do some real deep thinking and looking forward and realize like we need to rebrand, you know, and if we're to fully self-actualize as a company, we need to change our name and do more of, you know, the things that we're creating at the moment. And yeah, that in itself was a real identity shift, because I went from fear and survival, which is really how I felt, survival, to like, I don't need to survive anymore. And it changes your energy. It changes the way you go about things, you know? And I don't know whether you or other people kind of felt that, but it certainly,
I felt that coming on. It was, you know, when you're on your own freelancing, to get off that wheel was amazing wheel, but I was like, oh, I'm not just surviving anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. And so that was a real kind of moment. And then, and also really exciting, because then it became to like creation, you know? And that's when, you know, we started to do the work around rebranding. And then as we've grown over the last 12 months, we've been growing for a while now, but especially the last 12 months again, it's just a constant shift of the way of thinking, you know, because, you know, we talk about, oh, you know, we're going to need to, you know, expand maybe our logistical operation in 12 months time. And then a month later, it's like, oh no, we need to be doing it in like 2 months. Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
And that happened constantly, and even bringing on a full-time marketing team in yourself and in Alice, like the realization that we needed to do that at that time was a big one. And then 3 weeks into that, it's like, I think we need 2 full-time people, and like just that constant, like having to break down the glass ceilings, that you have in your mind is just, it can be quite tiring sometimes, also very exciting. And then, the team kept kind of growing and it gets to the point where, I certainly realized like, I don't have the influence that I used to have, that I felt like I needed to have, because I had to be driving this thing. Because if I wasn't doing it and people weren't buying into it, we were going to disappear,
I mean, I think that still stands. Keep doing that. But like now we all have to do it.
yeah, totally. And it's just kind of the environment of a business that's growing the way that we are, like everyone kind of feels that. But so lots of shifts. And then, I moved and started working in Queensland, and that was a shift as well. And I don't know, there's so many learnings over the way. Where I'm at right now is really trying to bring in a peacefulness, one which I never felt like I was allowed to, allowed by who? By myself. But it was like, I can't afford to be peaceful because, like I said, we were surviving, and like, if I was peaceful for too long, then we're going to disappear. I really felt that. And now I feel that in many ways, I need to embody that to help, to lead, the team. And like we haven't spoken about it today, but, our brand voice is the sage, and the sage sits and waits and breathes and doesn't say a lot, and maybe comes in with some real wisdom at some point. I wish I was more
like
wise.
Everything I want to be.
Yeah.
Pretty much like who we wish we were.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's Gandalf. It's Gandalf.
Yeah.
Dumbledore.
And I'm certainly not there, but I feel like right in this moment of time, that's I'm choosing to embody more of that, because I think it's important. And we have so much. One day maybe we'll get Oliver on and talk about our product development. There's so much happening there, which I'm so excited to release in the very short timeline from when this podcast is out. And there's so much happening there. There's so much happening in sales all across our business, in service, in customer service, all these things. There's so much happening there. And I feel like bringing a peacefulness to that, and just that knowing of like, guys, we're going to fuck up sometimes. That's cool. We're going to make mistakes. That's all right. I got your back, So I guess that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You talk about being in a survival mode as a business owner. I think I've witnessed this with people and, people that run businesses in general, that they're afraid of growth. I think maybe some people are scared of going further than where they thought, like we are limiting beliefs cap us. Do you feel that there is a risk, was there ever a point where you were like, I'm going to get stuck? Like there's a risk you were going to be stuck in the survival mode and not break through that limiting belief? Because it sounds like that's kind of what happened, right? And I just think that a lot of businesses, maybe especially like older business owners that are challenged by the digital world and the way that business is done now, I just think a lot of them would get really intimidated. Not even older, like everybody. Like what advice would you give a business owner who, knows they're onto a good thing, and how to identify and overcome any feelings of doubt around breaking through and having faith that, it must be a real art getting like past the fight. Like if I just keep going, but actually, how can you actually get through that and then actually shift know you're there and then shift your mindset?
Like lots of coffee No, I don't know.
I know you better than that.
There was lots of coffee at one point.
Yeah.
But no, I like honestly for a long time, it did feel like we were throwing the spaghetti at the wall and seeing what stuck. Like
Yeah.
it was constant, like
Mm.
trial, error, failure. Like it was
Mhm.
nonstop. And
Mm.
eventually over time, you know, we just kind of, I don't know, figured it out. I know it's not really the answer.
Do you think it was to do with like the people you had around you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like
I mean,
Bruce,
it goes,
you know, you and Bruce, like just
totally.
being like, we can do this, we can do it.
It goes back to culture for sure. Like as in terms of how we did it, culture was the massive piece. Having people on the team that believed what we were doing actually mattered, you know, because then you have that belief. I mean, really, if it was two things, it was belief and focus. You know, like we all believed that what we were doing was actually really incredible, and we all cared about that, and we all were focused. Like we were focused on, you know, let's make sure the emails go out. Can we automate that better? How can we shift the conversation?
Move
you
the
know,
needle.
exactly. Yeah. How can we change the questions we're asking at this point when we're talking to clients? You know, like it was just constant. But fundamentally, belief beneath all that was that belief and that focus. And I think to your question, like how do you kind of know when you get to that point? The analogy I can think is like if you're sprinting like 100-meter race and you're just so focused on doing your thing, like the good start, and then I don't know anything about running 100 meters, but I'm sure there's a good start, and then you know you kind of get to the point where you're like 80 meters in, and you're flowing and you're doing it, and then you look back and you realize like, oh shit, like I'm double the way down the track than everyone else. And that was kind of what happened at the start of this year. It was just like we worked so hard on customer reviews and creating an amazing experience and making a better product and having deeper conversations with our clients about health and how can we offer more value and more education and all from the right place. And we're just so focused on doing this. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, holy shit. Like, yeah, like people are searching for us now in the market, and people really like what we have to say. And it was just like, oh yeah, okay. And our business model was working, and that was the start of this year, you know, and the end of last year was that kind of realization of like the alarm bells that used to be going off were no longer going off anymore. And we're actually having more amazing things happen all the time than not so amazing things. So that was part of that whole kind of transition.
Well, I definitely noticed like when we were, so obviously I was just working with you on my like 20 hours a month or something, like whatever it was. We would have like our weekly whips, and you went on a sort of like a holiday health retreat thing. And I knew that you would, I was like, I was like having a whip with Bruce and Oliver, I think, at the time. So I knew Bruce pretty well by then, but I didn't know Oliver as well. Obviously a lovely father and son duo. And I was like looking at the whip, and I was like, oh, like I think we better wait till Alex gets back. I feel like he's gonna have like some big epiphany about like where he wants to go next. so let's just wait on like getting new projects for like another 10 days or so. And then the next one I talked to you, it's like, hey, you wanna consider come and work for us? We're gonna go large. And I think like I just you know, it's such a cool memory, but also it kind of lines up with a belief that I have about creating a life that you want and creating a brand that with purpose. And it's about asking for help, I think, and doing something differently and asking for help and being vulnerable and you know, relinquishing control. And like as I said, both my parents are business owners and they're amazing. Super influenced. I'm super influenced. I love them both a lot, and they're so great. I don't even think they know how great they are at what they do sometimes. But I think that it's counterintuitive to when you are a hustler and you're surviving, you don't ask for help. You want all that stuff. You want the bigger goals. You see the potential. You might not know how to articulate it. You might not know how to ask for help, but you know, like you've got a few mentors, like getting mentors. Like I've asked you at times, like put your mentor hat on for me. Like as adults, I as an adult, asking for help is not really encouraged as much. And I just think it's the absolute key for getting further than where you are, in a meaningful way that feels good. That isn't just running that rat race, that soul destroying side of it. Like there is a way.
Totally.
And like you just focus on that and make it a priority. It could be really small, could be a big thing, but yeah, that's what I've observed with you and in this change that I've seen.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really nice to hear. Thank you. And there's a really powerful task, I guess, or little activity that I like to do, and that is, I don't do it often enough actually, but it's called the gap. And so you write down like 1 year, like everything that you want to be living, experiencing, owning. You know, you've got to keep the ego busy.
Yeah.
Or everything you want in a year's time. You know, like mine at the moment is like I want to have enough time to feel like I can be around for Kristen and I's future kids when that happens. Like I don't want to feel like I'm the dad that's never there, right? But it could be anything for you. It might be I want to own a house, or I want to buy that car, or I want to be playing tennis 2 times a week, whatever it might be. Write all that stuff down. And by the way, when you're doing this, like go somewhere quiet, you know, and like turn your phone off, throw it in the bin, you know. Write this down 1 year at the top of the page. Cool. Write down all the stuff you want. Then at the bottom third of the page, write down like your current life situation. You know, how many hours you're working, how you're spending your time. I'm only playing tennis once a month, you know, whatever that might be. And then in the middle is the gap. So what do you need to change? What things do you need to do more of, less of? What do you need to stop doing or stop thinking? Who do you need to start spending more time with, stop spending more time with? All that stuff in the gap, and then go and do the gap. Do that stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that like self-reflection is a really important piece to like whether it's growing business or personal growth, whatever that might be. It's super important to just have that time once a week, even if it's once a month. Most people never do it in their lives ever, you know? Well, actually, that's not true, because most of the people listening to this are into that kind of vibe, you know. But I'm using absolutes here, and it's not going well. But you know, it's powerful to do, and doing that with some form of regularity is really cool, and you can see your progress. But also, it helps you to do things and experience more in life, and that to me has been kind of an important piece as well, you know. So anyway, I don't know why I felt like I need to share that.
No, I love that. I love that technique. And also, like, you know, Alice and I, our social media and partnerships manager, we do that every week as well, where we do our wins and blockers. Because I see though that gap, that the things that sit in the gap, is those are the blockers. Whatever sits in that gap is like, that's where the blockers sit. And so you can do it with yourself, you can do it with somebody else. And then therefore you are asking for help, and you can help each other a little bit, and that seeds of teamwork, right? And I also think that in that gap that you talk about, one of the things that gets missed quite often, like if you're going to write it down, it's like, you know, let's say you want to, like, I don't know, run a half marathon or something.
Right. Yeah.
It's like run more. Or like, you know, like it's like,
eat less.
Whereas maybe it's actually find a good run training program.
Yeah.
And like, you know, nothing about a frame. It's like, find out about this thing. Or so like in marketing, there's the old fashioned like brand awareness, consideration, conversion process and messaging funnel, where, you know, brand awareness is when you have a goal or a problem, and you know that you have that and that's what you're wanting to do. The consideration stage is all about gathering all the information that you need in order to make a decision. And then the decision stage is when you actually pull the trigger and do whatever it is you've decided is the best choice. That consideration stage is like, people just pull themselves up and think that they are like failing because they haven't made a decision. But really, they just haven't put enough like thought into the consideration stage, and they're trying to jump from A to B. It's A to C. And I'm actually all for jumping from A to C if you can. Like, what's the shortest way to get to something, for sure. But I think that if you're getting to a point where you're like, hell, you're holding back, that's where procrastination comes in, is like, what do you need to find out and unblock in your mind in order to make a decision? Because decision equals action. But you need information to make a decision. And you can apply that to anything, I think, in life or work or whatever.
Totally. I remember seeing entrepreneur Joe Burston speak quite a few years ago, actually. And she came on the stage after a day of pretty amazing speakers. Matthew Michaelwitz was one of them, who I love his book, and Andrew Griffith, famous writer. And anyway, bunch of amazing speakers. She came on at the end of the day, and this is someone who is, partnered with Richard Branson on things, and like, she's a big player. And she comes on and she walks on the stage. She has this energy about her. She's in this beautiful dress, and she just doesn't say anything. She just kind of slowly walks from one side to the other. And she just starts talking about life and about business. And I remember at one point she said, put your hand up if you have something that you've been needing to do and you just haven't done it. Of course, everyone puts their hand up. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, I actually need about 73 hands.
Yeah. Like each finger.
yeah, right. And she just kind of looked around and she said, well, go home and do it. And just, I was just like,
it's like Tony Robbins too.
Yeah, totally. But there's so much like, there's so much truth in that. Like, we get in our way sometimes to do stuff, and especially when it's hard conversations, we had to have a hard conversation recently about vaccinations in Victoria, and I had to just deliver a message, and I just got into it and I just did it, and there's so many things in life. We all know this. And sometimes there's a power in just freaking do it, man. Get out of your own way.
Yeah.
And if you do it and you cock it up, well, at least you know where the mistake was and you can readjust or.
Yeah. And if you need to, get a trusted witness, a witness to our experience is always can be really helpful and really reassuring. Just someone to know that that's what you're trying to do can be so powerful. Someone like peer mentorship kind of thing as well.
Yeah, and like knowing where you need help. When I started running this business, I very quickly was like, I need help. I don't really know anything about running business, so I started doing some things. Actually, thanks.
Well, you started learning, didn't you? Yeah. Like you found stuff out. That's how I got to. I just, as I said, no one will teach you anything. Like sign up for a course and then they'll teach you. Obviously, like retrain. I went to film school when I was 25. I was like 6 years older than everybody else, and it was like, like you did, like just if you don't know what to do yet, but you want to get somewhere, like get the information. And I think going back to Found Space, that's what we're going to try and do is like we'll always be kind of dancing a line of like the information we present, but we'll always be the space in which you can explore things and removing the drama, removing the obligation. When we send an email, we really want it to be something that we treat it as a privilege to arrive in your pocket. And like hopefully when you're scrolling through social media, what you see is something that lights you up and makes you feel a little bit better, not a little bit worse. That's where we we gather all the information and then we decide what it is we're going to choose to say. That is the goal.
I love that. And it is a privilege, and I think that's why we put so much thought like into every single email that we do and every single social post. We want to grow our social media, but we don't want to grow our social media by putting out crap or stuff that we know will get clicks. We want to put out stuff that has real efficacy behind it,
Yes, everyone tell us if you like something and also if you don't.
Feedback welcome, please.
So we can stop being annoying. No, we won't be.
Katie, this conversation has been really cool. I think it's actually been a real metaphor for how we go about things at Found Space, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like it's playful, but it's serious, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it. But we're also just, as a company, we're also not perfect, and we have our flaws as well. And just like the people that we work with, it's all very much analogous to each other. So
Yeah.
it's been fun having this conversation. It's been fun creating
Yeah.
Found Space with you, and I'm super
Totally.
excited to really get it out to the greater global market. And
Yeah.
I have no doubt that people will enjoy it, already be enjoying it, and connecting with us. I want to end on a question for you. You might have other questions for me, but one theme throughout today is that like there's a lot of stories, and I'm curious, like, when did you realize that stories were going to be such an important part of your life, and how did you kind of get so good at telling stories?
Oh, am I good at telling stories?
I think so.
Oh man, like I just was that kid that I like loved the video shop so much. Actually, do you know, I always got people always said that I'm an extrovert, but I don't know. I'm pretty introverted. I think I always was. Like, as a kid, I was just like super into films, and I used to get like $10, a dollar for 10 for $10, whatever, math, terrible math, stack of VHSs to like watch in a weekend, and I would just like lock myself up and like watch movies. And I remember it was like every single film and character was just like a window into like someone else's experience. Because I just think I remember being like, I just want to like do everything and live everything. And the most heartbreaking thought when you are like that is that you can't do everything and see everything. And so films and TV shows, but also books, obviously, were the ways that I felt like I could really experience life and try to understand how it was like for other people to live. That's why I'm really into the diversification of the entertainment industry, because like, you get to experience stories from different like situations and people where like I just think that's, for someone like me, that's just so magic. And yeah, I think I just always loved the escapism from it. I've sometimes wondered, maybe in some of my more unhappy days, I was drawn to TV shows and things that were like The Walking Dead. It's just like super violent and like like you kind of feed off that like pain in some way.
Yeah,
but
the pain body feeds. Yeah,
the pain body, my pain body. Yeah, and I love Walking Dead. And but yeah, like when you realize like what you consume and put in your mind is also it also feeds your mind. The things that you consume, and that's why I have such a, I don't know, like I'm not anti-technology, I'm not anti-entertainment, I'm not anti-Hollywood. I'm anti like discrimination pretty much in any sense. Don't get me started on that stuff. But I hate anything that makes anybody feel like they're less than because of something that they cannot control. I think that's just rubbish. Yeah, and so I just think that somewhere in it all, I just feel like that's how I live my life, is through storytelling. And I still watch so much. I don't read as much, which sucks. I try to read more, but I do love nonfiction a little bit more. But yeah, I just find stories are what give me, like, it gives me meaning. And I think what I'm trying to figure out now is like this whole, how do you have your own story but not remain attached to pain? I think that's a big challenge, is feeling your own story and being the hero of your own story, but also wanting to move on and become something new, and choose. It's really hard. But this is also probably a great time to plug my Instagram account, which has 77 followers. If anybody wants to know the cool stuff I am watching across streaming services, you can follow me on Watch What Where.
Love it. Love it. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I do follow your Instagram account.
Oh man, I could talk forever on shows to watch and why they're amazing. And yeah, they give you amazing ideas too. In marketing and content, they are incredible sources of inspiration for marketing. I've always think like there are characters, there's like the protagonist, and like so like Found Space is the protagonist, or like the customer is the protagonist, and like how are these people going to talk, and how is this going to unfold, and what's the journey they're going to go on, all that stuff. So it all integrates together. Yeah, I love me some stories.
Love it. No, that's beautiful. To end today, what's something you're grateful for, Katie?
What am I grateful for? I think so many things. I'm grateful for my health. I am grateful that I have 2 legs that I can move around on. I'm grateful for my mind, which has been a lot to cope with at times. I think everyone can relate to that, but I am grateful for it. And I think I am grateful for, I'm very aware and grateful of my situation and how amazing it is. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to begin giving back to others, because I now feel I am in a position to do that, which is a really nice feeling. It's a lot of things to be grateful for. What are you grateful for, Alex?
I'm grateful for this moment right now. This conversation has been awesome. And I'm grateful for the rain outside, actually. It's been raining up here a lot and it's really nice. And grateful for life at the moment. It's just lots of beauty.
Yeah.
Lots of beauty. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah. You've already plugged your Instagram, so I don't really know what else to say here. But
I'm a big time influencer. Might hit 100. Who knows?
I feel people are going to be like, but wait, you're in marketing. Shouldn't you have like 50,000 followers? But
when we email this out, I will make sure to plug my Instagram handle in all the comms.
It's like whenever I remember you'd go and like find a website design company, and then you'd look at their website and like it wasn't very good. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm too busy watching stuff and building an amazing brand for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I look forward to maybe having you on again in the future.
Yeah, let's do a little catch up in the future, and to everyone listening, can't wait to hear all of your amazing feedback. We love you a lot, and thanks so much for joining us on this journey. And Alex, thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.